Welcome to episode 480 of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. I'm your writer, host, producer, Derek M. Cook, and what you're hearing right now is a song called Alpaca Boogie. It's from the band The Space Agency. It's from their album, The Celestial Sounds of the Space Agency. That came out earlier this month, and of course, they gave us permission to play their music here on the show. You can find them at thespaceagency.bandcamp.com and pick up the entire album for £7. Check it out. Let them know that Monster Kid Radio sent you when you're done listening to this episode, because this episode, we've got an interview with two filmmakers. Now, you've heard one of them here on the show in the past. Well, you're going to hear him again. It's Ansel Faraj, the man behind so many really cool films, including Loon Lake, The Last Case of August T. Harrison, The Night Wind Murder. Just such great stuff for a guy who, you know, he's one of us. He's a monster kid, and he loves making these movies. And he's got a new movie coming up here soon that we're going to be premiering in the Monster Kid Movie Club. He's coming on the show with his lead actor, Nathan Wilson. Now, they have made a trilogy of Doctor Mabuse films. What's Doctor Mabuse? Well, Ansel's going to tell us when I have him here on the show in a few minutes. He and I and Nathan sat down to talk about Doctor Mabuse, what's happened to them since Loon Lake, how they managed to produce another Doctor Mabuse film in the day and age of a pandemic and quarantine. And we're going to announce when this movie will be made available for you to see. It is premiering this weekend. Stay tuned for more information about that. Now, we've got a little bit of listener feedback, and then I wanted to kind of review a few other things that are going on in the world of monsterdom, specifically with Monster Bash. Unfortunately, the Lugosi Film Festival had to be pushed back a little bit. Not sure if Monster Bash made the decision or if the theater where it's happening, the Canton Palace Theater, made the decision, but whoever made the decision, the Bela Lugosi Film Festival got pushed back to August 14th and 15th. I'm not going to be there. I wish I could be there if they're going to be up and running and everything safe, because it looks like a great time. They're showing Dracula, Chandu the Magician, Island of Lost Souls, Mark of the Vampire, The Devil Bat, Night Monster, Return of the Vampire. I mean, come on. This is going to be one heck of an event. I really hope that it can happen safely in the near future. You can learn more about what's going on with Monster Bash over at monsterbashnews.com. Ron Adams does an incredible job of keeping that up to date for everybody. So head on over there if you want to know more about what's going on with Monster Bash. And the other thing I wanted to mention before we move on to the rest of the show, you already heard me mention it a little bit, the Monster Kid Movie Club. That's what we're now calling Social Distance Saturday. If you are a Facebook user, you've probably seen the Facebook event start making its rounds through the various Monster Kid Radio Facebook pages and groups, as well as groups that are friends of Monster Kid Radio, like the B-Movie Cast. If you are a Facebook user, please search it out and let us know that you're going to be there, because that's where I'm going to be posting things like the schedule. The schedule is there now, but I can tell you that we are going to have the Dr. Mabuse films, all three of them. We're going to see a Joshua Kennedy film. We're going to see a TV show with Boris Karloff, and we're going to see some mummy movies. It's going to be a really good time, and I'm excited for this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun just to hang out with you guys and gals one more time in the Monster Kid Movie Club. Also, here's the thing that I'm really excited about. Next week, Tuesday, we're starting the Monster Kid Astronomy Club. Well, what's that? Well, it means for a couple of hours every Tuesday night, we're going to be showing science fiction movies. And that's starting on June 21st at 4 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be showing another Joshua Kennedy film, as well as a movie that Roger Corman was involved with. I'll be making some announcements on Facebook in the near future, as well as during the lineup this Saturday during the regular movie screenings, events, premieres, get-togethers, virtual, you know what I mean. Okay, enough with me, enough of this jibber-jabber. Let's get on with the rest of the show right now.
Paramount Pictures presents
a dual, ghoul, double, scream show.
Scream number 1.
Frankenstein and the monster from hell.
See the eeriest transplant in the history of horror. His brain came from a genius. His body from a killer. His soul came from hell.
It's the newest and most frightening Frankenstein ever filmed.
Scream number 2. Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter.
The only man alive feared by the walking dead. Warn the night creatures and the blood-hungry. Captain Kronos is here!
Frankenstein and the monster from hell. Plus
Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter. All shot.
in color, both rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Now scream!
If you are a murderer, a blackmailer, or a thief, with a face as ugly as sin, and a mind as distorted as the devil's, then this man, he might help you.
You could be beautiful, if you would trust me.
Think twice before you join his circus of horrors. He'll change your face beyond recognition, but your soul he'll enslave for all time. Remember, he alone will know the secrets of your evil past, and never will he let you escape alive. Anton Diffring as Dr. Schüller, who rose to glory in a trail of blood. Erika Remberg as one of the girls whose face and fate he changed, but not her mind.
You can't frighten me. These others have been stupid, just plain stupid.
What others?
The late unlamented ones who have died so suddenly and so strangely.
This is the little girl with the maimed face who was forever beholden to him.
I am beautiful.
Who grew from innocent childhood into trusting adolescence.
I would do nothing to hurt you. I owe you so much. I love you so much.
She was his one weakness. This maniac who first healed and then killed.
What just happened was an accident.
Every second is filled with unexpected danger and terror. As a doctor, a specialist in horror, uses his sinister skill to make a circus of criminals perform at his bidding.
What am I calling?
You've reached the feedback section of the show, and we got a message from friend of the show, former guest of the show, Alistair Hughes. By the way, if you aren't reading his book, Infogothic, you really need to get your hands on it. I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes for you to pick up your own copy. In the meantime, listen to what he has to say. Hi, Derek. I just had to drop you a line to say how much I loved your conversation with Seb Godin, purportedly about Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. Now, he put purportedly in quotes here. Okay, here we go. MKR has never, ever disappointed me, but under any other circumstances, I could have felt shortchanged that the film itself had such a proportionally short amount of airtime. However, the rest of your discussion was so much damn fun that this quickly became one of my favorite episodes so far this year. This really did embody the ethos of two monster kids just talking movies, and naturally, the fact that so much of it was specifically about Hammer films totally won me over. what I would have given to be in the virtual room for your conversation, because you both touched upon so many points which have long been sources of personal fascination for me. You and Seb both reinforced and sometimes even challenged my own viewpoints, which is always the hallmark of a stimulating discussion. Seb is obviously hugely knowledgeable, motivated, and talented, and although he clearly requires proper initiation into the satanic rites of Dracula, or as, actually, I just added the of Dracula, I'm going to reread that. While he obviously needs indoctrination into satanic rites, he's also right on the money about the lesser celebrated genius and innovation of early 70s Hammer. In a parallel universe, the stars could have aligned and we just might have had our Kronos series, a properly budgeted To the Devil a Daughter, Vampirella, Nessie, and all those tantalizing unmades, which we all know so well. Thank you for such an enjoyable listen. It's so gratifying to know that despite the tyranny of distancing and isolation, Monster Kids can still interact in such an entertaining and even educational way. Great work, Derek. Where would Monsterdom be without you? Well, I can't answer that last question, but yeah, to comment a little bit on what you just said here. I had so much fun talking to Seb. I mean, just time flew by, and I don't know how much I've said about this on the show lately, but when I do a recording with somebody, I record it and then I edit it, and then sometimes I go back and do a re-edit just to make sure I got all the ums and uhs and everything else out of there to make sure everything sounds smooth and as professionally as possible. And I had a lot of fun with Seb's conversation. It was just like kicking back with an old friend talking about the movies that we love so much. I was a little worried that we did shortchange Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, because I do enjoy that movie quite a bit, and I think that was pretty obvious that Seb and I both really dug that film. It was his idea to do that film. In fact, he mentioned it on Facebook in a conversation with somebody else, and I latched onto it, and from there, well, this happened. I hope you check out his movies when they come out. When Blood Rites of the Vampire was released on Vimeo, I know a handful of people saw it. I'll make sure there's a link to that in the show notes as well. And as we talked about, his movie Ouija Mummy will be released later this year in October from Wild Eye Releasing. As soon as I know more about that, I'll make sure I post links to that as well. I believe his Kickstarter campaign has hit its goal. The movie Abominations of Frankenstein will be made at this point, and I believe they are also shooting for some stretch goals at this point as well. So just go look up Abominations of Frankenstein on Kickstarter, and again, link in the show notes, and let them know that Monster Kid Radio sent you. Thanks for sending me a message, Alistair. You know, it's been too long since we've had you on, so why don't we see what we can do about crossing the time barrier and getting you on the show from the future about something. Let's find another movie to talk about. So he sent me that message through Facebook, but if you want to get a hold of us, feel free to drop us an email. It's monsterkidradio@gmail.com, or you can even call and leave us a voicemail at 503-479-5657. That's 503-479-5MKR, and of course, this information is available on our website over at monsterkidradio.net. That voicemail line, we haven't used in a little while. I wonder if it's even still good. So somebody out there, give me a call. Let's make sure it's still up and running.
Dracula is back. In the first now Dracula movie, Dracula AD 1972. And with this new motion picture, an unrivaled event, Horror Ritual. You will participate with the Transylvanian vampire himself, swearing you in as an honorary member of the Count Dracula Society. He comes back from the living dead to extend you his personal invitation.
Join me in the horror ritual.
You heard it with your own ears from his blood-red lips. Get your honorary membership card when you see the new Dracula movie, Dracula AD 1972, and participate in the horror ritual. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Why, what are you looking for under a tombstone in broad daylight?
Shh! You'll scare her away.
Scare her away? Who? What? What can you scare away here in a cemetery?
My ghoul friend. She's the ghost in the invisible bikini.
What are you putting me on? Herbie, I know you're broad-minded, but this is ridiculous.
No, I'm serious. And you should see her since she traded her bedsheet for a bikini.
Well, you must enjoy looking around for a real nothing broad.
It's really just that American International is inviting everyone out to the graveyard for a blood-curdling blast with the ghost in the invisible bikini to see Tommy Kirk, Deborah Wally, Aaron Kincaid, Harvey Lembeck and Jesse White with Nancy Sinatra, and guest stars Basil Rathbone, Boris Karloff, and Susan Hart in The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini in Pathé Color and Panavision.
Now, you would have to get commercial. Now you scared her away.
He's the goingest ghost you've ever met. This ghost of Dragstrip Hollow. He's got the Hot Rodders Vavoomin and the Hepcats Zazoomin.
She your chick? Well, I'd like to think so. You know, she prefers hot rods instead of hot romances.
That's because it's easier to handle cars.
This chick does all right with romance, too. But nothing stops this pirate's bird, who learned his tricks from the ghost of Dragstrip Hollow. Anybody want to kiss a duck?
There's a perfectly rational explanation for all this.
Hepcats and hot rodders, they're all alive to the jive.
All right, Monster Kid Radio listeners, you know we've had Ansel on the show before. We've got him back, and he's not alone. He's here with his, I guess you would call him his co-producer, partner in film, his actor, his friend. So I've got Ansel and I've got Nate Wilson here on the show. How are you two doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having us on, Derek. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
Did I describe that correctly? You two are basically co-producers on most of your work?
Yep, yeah, I think that's perfectly.
When we had Ansel on, let's see, man, it's been over 6 months now, because we had you on during December last year in December when we talked about a Dan Curtis film, and a lot's happened since then, including the release of a Blu-ray. You want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, our folk horror film Loon Lake with David Selby and this guy I'm sitting next to you right here, and it's now available on Blu-ray and DVD, a special edition Blu-ray. It has kind of a little documentary on how we made it, and it also has some deleted scenes on there, and then actually the first time Ansel met with our music or composer, Phil Lundell, yeah, so that's on there as well. And you can get it at Barnes & Noble and Amazon, which we don't like right now, but we'll still, I guess, tell you that it's on there.
I just had the phone cut out, but it sounded like you were saying Barnes & Noble and Amazon, or was where it's available?
Yeah, yep. Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure there are links in the show notes. And during a recent weekend stream, we showed the unboxing video that you've put on YouTube, where you two are opening up the Blu-ray of Loon Lake. I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you so much.
Is this the first Hollingsworth production to be released to Blu-ray?
Yeah, it's our first Blu-ray release. I mean, we've had a couple DVDs, but this is the first one in full 1080 HD high def Blu-ray. And we'll have a couple more Blu-rays coming soon. Yep.
Oh, really? Of older stuff?
Well, we have one film that we did, a romantic love story in Venice called Will and Liz, that is on Amazon Prime right now for streaming, and you can watch it there. And then I think we're going to get the Blu-ray going here soon. By fall, winter. That would be out. And then I would ideally like to do a Mabuse disc coming soon. Really big special edition with a whole bunch of other cutscenes and things that didn't happen. And yeah, we shall see.
Right on. And that's another reason why I wanted to have you on the show, is to talk about the Mabuse films. You've got 2 that are available now, but you guys have been busy. Like I said, it's not just getting Loon Lake ready for Blu-ray. Somehow, during this corona apocalypse, when we're all supposed to be staying home wearing our masks, you guys made a movie.
We did.
How did that happen?
Well, we've been writing consistently since wrapping on Loon Lake. And then right before COVID happened, we were writing up quite a bit. Yeah. And then when that kind of happened, we kind of dropped out. And then we saw a couple people were making a couple short films that we kind of knew. And we were talking about doing a short film and
take advantage of the time, and just the idea came of, well, what could we do? And I started thinking again about Dr. Mabuse, because I'm always thinking about him. And it sort of worked because we had this empty, eerie city of Los Angeles at our disposal. And Dr. Mabuse is he's a bad guy, and using our circumstances to his advantage seemed like a good idea. And I knew that Jerry Lacey was sitting in quarantine as well and was probably bored like we were and would be up to it. And I came over to hang out with Nate, and I said, hey, I have this idea. Do you want to do this? And then he said, sure. And I called up Jerry and I said, hey, do you want to play Dr. Mabuse again? I have this idea. And he's like, let's get to it. So in the past month and a half, 2 months, we've been
dealing with it and talking about it and making it. Yeah.
Remotely.
I mean, we usually shoot, besides for Loon Lake, with a pretty small skeleton crew anyway. So for us to go out and kind of deal with the elements that are LA and shooting around and kind of getting around and doing things, we can do that pretty easily now.
It's just
for us. It's just
the two of us. So we can manage.
So this was a pretty small production. Now, the previous two films, they were feature length, but this one was intentionally, kind of by necessity, a shorter film. Is that right?
Yeah, because to make a feature would be a lot harder.
Yeah, and also with the circumstances of gathering people, and if we're going to do a feature, well, then we want to see all the other characters, and not everybody is available. Everybody's in their various quarantine spots across the country, and so it's just like, who's here? Who
can we do it and make it a good story?
Exactly. It's always up to story.
And do it as well. Yeah.
You said a second ago, not too long ago, that Dr. Mabuse 100 years, what is that? Let me say that again. 100th anniversary of Dr. Mabuse is coming up next year. Now, I had to do a little bit of research. I'm not overly familiar with Dr. Mabuse. Who is this character, and why are you continuing to tell his stories?
I feel like a broken record. I've told this like a million times, but Dr. Mabuse was a character created by this writer named Norbert Jacques back in 1921, and it was inspired by post-World War I. There was I want to call it the Raska movement, which was all the newly rich who had made money off of war profiteering and were taking over Germany at that time in the early 20s. And so he was writing about that sort of economic, sociological fallout and the sort of rise of discord and chaos that was bubbling under the surface within that era of Germany, which then eventually gave way to Hitler and the whole, the Nazism. And the character, as he exists in the original novel and in the very first Fritz Lang silent film, he's a master of disguise, a master of hypnosis. He's a criminal mastermind. And I always thought that was a cool character when I was a kid, because there's just so much possibility that you can do with him and with that world. And, as I've said numerous times, one thing led to another. I wrote a script and we made this first film. And why do I keep going back to him? Because I still think he's a fascinating character. And as our world gets crazier and crazier, I find that he's more increasingly relevant. So it seems kind of like a good moment to go back and revisit him with everything that's going on right now. If that made any kind of sense as an answer.
I think I follow. And Nate, were you familiar with this character before Ansel brought him up as somebody to make a movie about, or was this all brand new to you?
Nope, I really wasn't. We first shot our first film, which I don't know if you guys have ever talked about. It's called just kind of a feature, low-budget film called Brother Drop Dead. And when we got done shooting that movie, we wanted to work together, and he brought me this Dr. Mabuse script. After that, I kind of looked into him and, saw who he was and watched some of the films and, checked more about him.
I was very adamant not to delve into it because we were going to do our own thing and our own interpretation and not remake anything that had come before. So
we really didn't want me to go in there too much and kind of fill out the story that he had and kind of that we were going to do, but I still kind of went back and looked into it, just to see the history of him.
And that was going to be a follow-up question I had, actually, for listeners who don't know. Are these films standalone stories, or do they continue what's already been done? It sounds like this is brand new, has nothing to do with anything that's already been released. Is that right?
Yeah, yes and no. It's sort of like, I don't want to call it a multiverse story, but I feel like it's an epilogue to what has come before, but also sets the stage for where the story could then go. And I obviously, as I said, I'm always thinking about him, and I have an idea of where a story could go, and it would be very, very different. I mean, yeah, we were sitting here, we're bored with the pandemic and whatnot, but I also really wanted to go back and put a more mature say on this than I was able to when I was 20 years old when we made the very first film. I wanted to, I don't know, reset the record, if that's a, yeah. Once again, I have no idea if that answer made sense. This is how this day is going to go, man.
I think I follow. Hopefully the listeners can too.
I hope so as well. Nate can translate.
Well, that's kind of the fascinating thing too about some of these public domain characters. I mean, this character is over 100 years old, or almost 100 years old at this point. So he's free and clear, man. Do whatever you want with him. You can do so much with a lot of these characters that have fallen into the public domain and address contemporary issues or matters of the world as it is now, that sort of thing. And I'm real curious to see how you tackle the fact that you were only able to get a couple of actors together for this new movie. I'm excited to see it because the other two, they have a bigger cast, a little bit smaller production than what we saw with Loon Lake. In fact, Ansel, you had told me when I said I wanted to show all three Mabuse films together, you're like, well, you get to see where I started from. And, you know, I think that's part of the charm, though, too. What are some of the things that you are doing now that have evolved from how you started, if that makes sense?
Oh, yeah. And I believe that's another reason why we wanted to make it, do this short of Mabuse as well, is to show kind of where we were story-wise, or, you know, producer, writers, and
everything,
filmmakers, I guess, back then compared to right now what we can do with only a couple people, you know. So it's kind of like the progression of where we've come from since then, even though it's only going to be a 20-minute film, but
to put a more professional spin upon it than we were able to way back when we were still figuring things out.
Yeah, then like for me back then, that was my first lead in a feature film, so I was still dabbling, or I mean, I've always been dabbling with acting, but it was my first time on film having a lead to try to go in against Jerry Lacey and the Dark Shadows crew, and, you know, the nerves and just everything from that, and being a lead and trying to, I guess, carry a film, you know, was exciting for me at the time and different than I thought, and how much I've learned since then as well.
Were you familiar with Dark Shadows at this point, or is this something Ansel had to introduce you to as well?
I also was not, did not know about the Dark Shadows either. And then I was telling the story the other day of, for the first film, I didn't really know, and then I looked into everybody, and I started watching some episodes just to see who I'd be working with and kind of where they came from and what they've done, and, you know, their whole history. And I was telling the story to a friend about how, so we're going to do this, and I had enough nerves already going in that I'm going to be going up with the Dark Shadows crew and kind of their experience and mine. And about 1 week or two, or I think it was like even a week before we were going to do a table reading in front of everybody, we're going to meet all these new people. Ansel is like, everybody's going to have a British accent. And I was like, what? I can't do a British accent, and I don't think I can learn a good enough British accent in a week or two before we start filming. So we go, and we're sitting around a living room table. They're sitting around the living room table, and Jerry and everybody's around there, and I'm doing this British accent in these lines for this table read, which is probably horrendous, I'm sure. But I wonder what they thought about me.
There was you and 5 others doing that.
Well, yeah, we were also still kind of doing it, but it was like, oh, so this is going to be...
this will be interesting.
Yeah, this will be interesting. Yeah, this is Inspector Loman, and he's doing this crazy accent.
I remember he was saying, I'm listening to tapes of Gary Oldman, like, I've got to get this accent down. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, you'll be fine. And then we got there for the table read, and
everybody's accents were all over. And then we were like, yep, we're going to scratch the accent.
It's going to be,
here, wherever. So there are times in there where I do have a slight accent because I was kind of working on the lines with it. So there is sometimes you see that, and if you hear that, that is why.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like Ansel and Nathan, you two have different backgrounds. I mean, Ansel's monster kid, and Nathan, you're not really in it. How did you two come together in the first place?
Well, it was from that first film that we did, Brother Drop Dead. He was having a casting for it, and I was actually coming back because I'm originally from Minnesota. I think from Christmas vacation.
Yeah.
And I looked on that I submitted for this project, and Brother Drop Dead, and then it
was a hillbilly comedy, by the way.
Yeah, a hillbilly comedy, a family hillbilly comedy. And then I went in there and I auditioned, and that's when I met Ansel. And then I got the part, and then
we made that film. It was crazy. It was very crazy.
Yeah, and then after that, we did Doctor Mabuse, and then just kind of
kept going.
He liked making films, and I like being in films and making films as well, and we just kind of continued to do that and just kind of continue to work together. Yeah.
Yeah, and also we like the same kind of movies and the same style, and we think alike, and so it's sort of symbiotic, the relationship, the working relationship.
Yeah, so I was more into acting in the theater and doing some plays and stuff in college, and moved out here and was studying theater, scene study classes, and a lot of improv classes because I started to do a lot of improv comedy because I thought that if I could do improv comedy, that I could easily do drama, or thought it'd make it easier to do drama if I could do comedy. And then, then when I was studying that stuff and met Ansel, and
I needed somebody to torture.
So
here we are.
I'm trying to imagine that there must have been like a movie night or something where you invited Nate over and said, okay, we're going to watch these horror movies so you know where I'm coming from. Something like that. You just kind of barraged him with it. Is that?
They kind of, I gave him a stack of DVDs to watch before we did the second Doctor Mabuse, but if you really want like a movie night, I dragged him to go to a midnight showing of Phantasm at the New Art Theater, and he enjoyed it. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Reggie was there. Reggie was there. It was really cool. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've met him once at a convention years ago. Really cool guy, laid back. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And interesting, I could see a little bit of influence from things like Phantasm on Loon Lake. Just a touch. So really interesting that was like the big movie that you drag him to kind of introduce him to your world of monster moviedom and that sort of thing. Nate, what kind of movies did you watch growing up then, if you weren't into like the Dark Shadows and all that?
This is probably going to sound so bad, but I'm from a Midwest small town, and like my dad and I would like watch like action movies and stuff. I grew up with like Sylvester Stallone and like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then Robert Redford, Jack Nicklaus movies as well. So I don't know, I was kind of all over the place. And then,
can I interrupt? Because that's really good. Because he grounds me when we're working together. Because I'm off in Phantasm land, and he's in real world.
I kind of do the more reality stuff, I guess.
Sometimes when people ask me, what kind of advice can I give somebody who wants to get into podcasting, I always tell them, listen to podcasts that are outside of their chosen genre, because you're going to learn from all these other types of podcasts, no matter what the genre is. And I would imagine the same thing holds true to all forms of storytelling, writing, directing, acting, all of that. So to hear Ansel say that he kind of grounds you, I could totally see that. It makes things like Loon Lake come across, even though there's some spooky stuff happening, it's still grounded.
Yeah, and I'd say that would be, Ansel would like to go off to some other places. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't know if that's going to make sense, or maybe we don't need to do that hard. I think we could stick into this little thing and kind of pull it back a little. But it's good to have that push and pull, because then he brings me to a spot where I'm like, I don't know, and then he'll talk me into, well, this actually is the best idea for this thing. You know what I mean? And then he'll think this idea is great, and then I'll pull him back. So it's a good give and take of going off somewhere and coming back to this neutral best spot for the film. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I think Loon Lake in particular, and I think maybe I keep coming back to that because it's the most recent one that I've watched. I need to catch up with Mabuse here soon. But with Loon Lake, I'm just blown away by the way you're able to layer the spooky storytelling, the ghost story that you're telling here, in the reality of this small town and all the things that are happening there. My understanding is that you two kind of came up with a story together for Loon Lake. Is that right?
Yeah, in a sense. So coming back to this first film. So when we were actually shooting this first film that we did, Brother Drop Dead, I was talking to Ansel at the time because where I grew up is from Southwest Minnesota, where the story is and is actually where we shot Loon Lake, and is that cemetery. And I went out there as a kid, and I thought about doing a story about this story or her, this witch. And that day I was like, someday I'd really like to start a production company named Around Town Productions. And there's a story that I grew up with as a kid about this witch legend. If you walk over a grave 3 times, you'll die an unconventional death. But at the time, for me, I was like, I do like kids where they go out there and they're drinking and, just your typical horror story. And then after we wrote a bare knuckle boxing script, after Will and Liz and whatever, I was like, well, let's start doing this Loon Lake script, and how could we go about it, and what could we do with this witch? Yeah. And then I think that's when kind of
it just sort of started coming together.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to do a folk horror movie and really use like a landscape in a menacing way. And then this story just kind of presented that opportunity. And it was an opportunity also to not be filming in Venice Beach, which was where we're always filming. Go out of state, go someplace new, and have an adventure as we're making a film.
And then with growing up with this legend as well, and there's so many different stories that I grew up with. Like if you walk over it 3 times, then this happens, or just whatever different story. So it was a good base to start with and to be able to play with, of like, what story is real, what's not real, what's real about her, is she real or not, or is she not real? So that was like a good spot to start to branch out to build this story. So
everybody's different belief systems, and
and who is real? Is she real? Is she not real? Whose story is true?
Right, and who believes that the legend, or who thinks it's hogwash? And and that's what really sort of grounded the whole ghost story aspect, because everybody is telling their own ghost story,
and you don't know which one is true or not.
And that's kind of how it actually is there in real life. Everybody will tell you their own ghost story of the cemetery.
And
it's all different. Each has a unique story.
And one will tell us like there's an orb out there, or like somebody went out there and they stole the headstone or did something on their way home. They got in a car accident. This is actually a true story. And there's 4 of them in the car. 2 of them died and 2 of them got beaten up pretty bad,
and like
by the headstone. So then
like a bird that came back to life.
Oh, that was this because there was a bird that they took that they thought they shot, and it came back to life in the car, and they got in a car accident.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of crazy variations on this legend, and that just gave us so much freedom to dive into the story and really manipulate it and tell the story that we eventually told.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah, and to start off with the witch and go in the direction that we did with her as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can give spoilers or not, but
that's fine.
Let's let them watch them.
Yeah.
Did you ever walk over the grave 3 times growing up then?
So I didn't. So by the time I grew up and went out there, the headstone of her grave was already gone. It's been taken to this Jackson County Historical Society. So nobody really knows where the grave is actually now. But I did go out there as a kid a couple times, and walking through the fence like I do in the movie, I actually did feel this heavier pressure, or like humidity and change in the air when I was there. And when I was actually, I'll tell some ghost stories. Yeah. When I was actually out there scouting to take pictures, because we did all the pre-production in LA, and then I'd go back home when I was there. I'd take pictures of the locations or pictures of places to come back and show Kelly and Ansel what everything looked like. So I went out to the cemetery, and I was taking pictures of the cemetery to kind of show them, and my phone went dead, and I swore I had like 50% left on the phone, and it went dead. It wouldn't start back up, so I used my dad's phone to like take some pictures. And then when I walked back down the trail, because we parked down there and got back into the car and we were leaving, I tried to turn on my phone again, and it turned back on with like 50% of the phone battery was left. It was very eerie that it shut off and wouldn't turn back on until I actually left the cemetery.
And you decided to film there anyway. So
yeah, and we shot there anyway. And we have some stories about that too while we were filming.
Well, that was my next question. Did anything happen while you were shooting?
I mean, my one famous ghost story was we were filming, and it was like the end of production, and like the very first week of shooting, we did all the cemetery scenes, and by the end of filming, like everybody in town knew about the movie, and it had become like a full thing, and everybody was like talking about it again. And we're filmed in the house that the movie takes place in, which is Nate's parents' farmhouse. And my bedroom was the basement, which, if you've seen the film, there's a very significant scare in the basement later on. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I heard this sound of paper ripping. And I'm like, okay, I'm asleep. It's just in my dream. And then I woke up, and I could hear this sound of paper being ripped. It was actually in real life. I'm hearing this noise. And it was like coming from behind the couch, which was to my left. And we also just like went and we saw The Nun, the Conjuring movie, The Nun, like that day before. So I have all this imagery in my head of that film. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and this noise is happening. And I realize my script is over there. So I'm like, oh, damn, it's Mary Jane, and she's not happy with what we're doing. And she's standing over in the corner, and she's ripping up my script. And this noise went on for about a minute or so before I hear this walking upstairs, like in the film. I'm like, oh, God, this is not good. And it was Nate's mom letting the dogs out. And I'm like, who's there? Who's there? And she comes downstairs. She's like, is everything okay? And the sound of the paper being ripped stopped. And
yeah, my mom was up to let the dog out to go to the bathroom.
And I was very happy that she was there for a second. And the next morning, everybody knew that I had scared myself in the middle of the night. And I'm still, there's something there. Yeah. My script was okay the next day, though, just so everybody knows.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Did anything that happened during production make its way into the film?
No, I mean...
Yeah, no, but we kind of had the script down pretty well by the time we got there, and we kind of...
Yeah, you've got to be prepared when you're a no-budget film like us, and we knew pretty much everything that was going to happen. I mean...
Yeah, we were working on pre-production, kind of everything that we did, and then me taking pictures and kind of knowing the house and knowing the layout. Well, besides, actually, the one scare that we have with Mary Jane in the kitchen after the rain when I come up from the shower, we didn't know for sure how we were going to shoot that. So that was actually a big thing that we probably should have known, but we didn't know. And then the first day that we got to my farmhouse, or my parents' farmhouse, we actually figured that out. On that night, we were up kind of, and I brought them into town and to show where this was going to happen and that happened. We came home and we were hanging out, and we were like, how could we shoot that? And I was like, oh my God, if we would have her sitting here. So then I stood where she stood, and then we did some things, and it worked itself out, and it was like, wow, that's how we can shoot it. Like that's perfect.
A very simple trick.
Yeah. But everything else, like walking up to the corn, and that kind of already had set. And that's why we went and shot that year, is because we knew the corn was going to be where it was that year, so we could use it to the best of its ability.
Yeah. Probably the scariest thing that would happen would be Kelly, who's also the witch and produced the movie, would be yelling at us that we're going too slow and we're on overtime. We gotta rush. We gotta rush.
Gotta go.
that would be scary.
Yeah, that was the scariest part.
Kelly's mad again. Oh God.
Go. We gotta get
the shot. We gotta get the shot.
We talked about the production a little bit too when I had you on the show last time, Ansel. The listeners, I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes to that previous episode. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what happened with Loon Lake and how these two basically took over a small town to make a low budget movie that looks a lot bigger than the budget really was. I'm still impressed when I look and watch that movie, and I don't have the Blu-ray yet. I did place an order. It's not here yet, but as soon as it gets here, I can't wait to pop it in and just kind of explore the special features and watch it. You know, I like having physical media, especially when you have special features included in the mix. And one of the special features that you mentioned during the unboxing video was that there's a chat with the composer, with Bill Wandel. And I'm a huge film score guy. It wouldn't be an episode of Monster Kid Radio if I didn't talk about how much I love my film scores. And I really enjoyed the score for Loon Lake. But you guys are saying that Ansel had never met him in person? Is that right?
Yeah, I've known him since like 2011. He's been working with me since then. He's in Michigan, and I'm here in Los Angeles. And we communicate on the phone. And then when we work together, like, he'll we'll Skype together, and he'll put the movie up on his computer, and we'll spot the film that way, and we talk on the phone about the psychology of the film and the characters and what the music needs to dictate. And it was always the thing of, eventually you're going to come out to LA and I'll meet you, or we're going to do a thing and, you'll come out then or something. And then when we knew that the film would premiere in Minnesota, and he's in Michigan, so it's a state over? Or?
Yeah, it's 2 states over. Yeah, so I don't know how long the drive was, but it was a perfect opportunity for him to come and be a part of this thing with us.
So him and his family, they drove out, and I met him in person finally.
Yep. And they got to finally chat, and we got that on video.
And we talked about working on the music, because he scored, that's an incredible score.
It's an amazing, spot-on, perfect, amazing score for the movie.
Yeah, and the album, you can download the soundtrack album on Spotify and I think Amazon Music.
Yeah, it is on Amazon Music. That's how I've been listening to it. It is gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It really drives the film and helps move everything along.
It's very, very good. How did you connect with him?
I was doing one of my Detective Adam Sarah movies, and
how old were you?
18 or 19, somewhere. I was young.
And you found him on Craigslist?
No, he sent me a cold call email, and he's like, I see you're in post-production on this movie, and do you need a composer? And I'm like, yeah, I need a composer, but I'm like a kid and I don't have any money. So I made a cool movie though, if you want to see it. And he luckily channeled into my madness and was like, I like it. I think I can write something fun like this. And then we just kept going. And then, luckily I've been able to pay him subsequently. But that was our first, yeah.
And then they did Mabuse for us.
And then he did Mabuse.
So the first Mabuse, 1 and 2, he did for us as well.
Actually did Brother Drop Dead.
Did he really?
He scored Brother Drop Dead. And then he's licensed music to me for all the Theater Fantastiques. He scored August Harris, and he scored everything. August Harrison, Nighttime Winds. Actually, I'll just tell you guys right now, we're going to put out an album. The tentative title is like Gothic Themes, but it will have the scores for both Mabuse films, for August Harrison and for Nighttime Winds, very soon. Because his music is incredible, and I'm very lucky to have him working on my crazy films.
Well, that has got me very excited. I know we talked kind of briefly off mic via Facebook Messenger about some of the other music from your films being made available. That's man, I'm stoked. Keep me posted.
I will.
So we've got the Doctor Mabuse movie, the new short film, and is it just the two of you then? Is it Nate and Jerry, and that's it for the cast?
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
Everybody's been asking, is Laura Parker in this? And no, Catherine and Laura did not come back. Chris did not come back. Much they all wanted to, but I said I need to focus on Loman and Mabuse. These are my two guys, hero and villain, and I have things to say about them. So maybe the witches and everybody else might come back in another adventure. But again, we shall see.
Well, with a shorter film, too, it might be hard to work so many other characters into it. So I get that.
Yeah.
How was filming that movie different than shooting Loon Lake? I would imagine it's kind of like a scaled-down production, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It was, every movie before Loon Lake was a skeleton crew like this one, which means it's me, and then Nate, you know. But Nate's usually in front of the camera, and I'm behind the camera. And
then when I'm not in front of the camera, I'm usually like helping out, doing something on the production side.
Figuring everything else out.
Figuring out, doing whatever I need to do. But I'm not on camera.
But on Loon Lake, we had 3 other people helping us. So you kind of don't realize how spoiled you are when you've got 3 other sets of eyes helping you on a project, and now it's just me and Nate again. And we had a great time, but we were like,
yeah, but
oh wow,
it's kind of weird coming back after being spoiled a little bit and having like more people on set and helping out and stuff. And then you come back and you're like, this is fun, but like, man, it's so much fun having like more people here. But that has to do with the COVID stuff as well, where we can't really do that. But so it's totally different because in this, we don't have as many locations. We can't tell as grand of a story as you could with Loon Lake with only a couple people and only certain locations. That's also kind of why it's more of a short film than a feature film, because there's only so many spots we could really go and be able to do this and stay away from people and kind of do our own thing. Because it would be fun to do a feature of what this is about. It would be a lot of fun, a proper Mabuse film like this. and kind of expand upon what we have here. But for now, we'll just this is what we can do, and this is what so that's what we did.
Yeah.
You made a comment to me, Ansel, when we first started talking about you coming on, talking about this and showing these other movies. Shot in a garage against a green screen.
Yeah.
Is that how this one? I mean, are certain scenes in this one shot the same way?
There's some of it is on green. Very little of it is actually on green screen.
Okay.
But I mean, we did go on location for quite a bit of it.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I don't want to really tell you because I don't want to spoil the mystery of it. But there was a little bit of green screen work that was by necessity. I'll tell you this: Jerry Lacey shot all of his work a month before Nate and I really began, and he shot his stuff on a cell phone in a bedroom.
Yeah. So it's totally different because, Jerry shot his footage, and then I shot my footage with him not even...
Like a month later.
Yeah, a month later, with him not even here, not even playing off him.
Yeah.
It's just us going back and just doing our lines.
Yeah.
Which brought me back to the first Mabuse, because in the first Mabuse, in this small garage with blue screen, and I'm like, all right, what am I looking at? Well, look at that dot up there, and then deliver your lines there, and this is kind of what's going on. And you're like, oh, all right, let's do it. So it brought me back to there, like that's kind of how this was a couple times of, all right, where am I looking? Where's my eye line? Okay, that little dot up there, piece of tape. Okay,
there's Jerry.
There's Jerry, and this is how I'm going to be acting. So it's definitely different than shooting Loon Lake, where I have David Selby sitting across from me and like playing off of him, and we can kind of play back and forth in a cornfield or running around or having another girl there. So that part was definitely different than this film.
How did that particular production style develop for you, Ansel, in terms of shooting against green screens in garages? Was it just lack of location, the actors not being in the same place at the same time? How did you decide to start that way?
All right. Well, here's something that you can geek out and appreciate. Back in 2008, when I was in the 11th grade, I think, I decided, let's do a version of Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness on summer break. All right, how are we going to do that? Well, let's just hang blue tablecloth up in my aunt and uncle's garage, and then I'll just put mountains and snow and stuff behind everybody. And so we did that, and then I was like, wait, I can really do something with this. So then just kept using the blue screen effect because we were all kids. We couldn't drive anywhere, so we couldn't go to our locations. And then everybody was in one spot. We had everything there that we needed: costumes, props, usually blood cleanup, because there's always horror movies. And then I just kept operating that way. And then when we came to do Doctor Mabuse, I knew it would be the most effective way to create the world that I envisioned in my head by just doing it all blue screen. And everybody would just be at one location, and we had no microphone, so we could at least control the sound to a degree that we're inside, so the sound will register. Yeah. And then we did that one, and then we did the second one sort of half blue screened, and then I said, all right, let's go outside. I'm tired of it, because I've been in the garage for a while.
Yeah. And I think, and then when we went on to August Harrison and those things too, it's like, let's go the environments and let's go. And then with Will and Liz as well, we're like, well, we're going to go shoot everything.
And those movies demanded.
You had to, for sure.
Like Venice was very much a character in both August Harrison and Will and Liz.
Yeah.
Just as much as Minnesota is a character in Loon Lake.
And I think with the Doctor Mabuse movies, in a sense, even though it's blue screen, that is kind of a little bit of a character as well, because it's
the artificiality.
Yeah. And how do you? It's tough. It'd be tough to make that city without any money. And going to some street somewhere, or where do you find that stuff? Yeah, exactly. You can't really make that type of a movie unless you're doing that.
Yeah. And we don't have the budget to go to Berlin. Yep. So Century City it is.
I don't think that, and I hope it didn't sound like I was saying, why did you do it? I wasn't trying to come down on it. I think it works.
No, not at all.
And I think you nailed it too. And I was going to say the same thing, that the Mabuse stories feel so unreal in some ways, that it kind of lends itself to having this different approach to yeah.
I mean, the theater fantastiques are very surreal and purposely so.
Yep.
Because I like that Mario Bava heightened theatricality. I mean, look at Hammer. Like all of that, we know that's Bray over and over, but it's part of the mystique of it. I mean, certain films demand the reality, as we've said, but certain things like Mabuse, you're in a dream world, you're in the unconscious. So that whole style, you can have fun playing with
and you couldn't really find that anywhere else besides just kind of creating it and making it in the backdrops. Yeah. It would be pretty tough. Yeah.
Escaping reality.
The one I was thinking of was The Nighttime Winds. There seems to be, this unreal sense to everything that's going on, and it just adds to that nightmarish quality to that movie as well. I'm excited to see the new one. It's called 1001 Lives of Dr. Mabuse. And is it official? Are we going to premiere it on the stream, Ansel?
You guys get the very first screening.
Oh boy, that's going to be fun. Yeah. And what we're going to do a triple feature. We're going to do all three of them. We're going to lead up to it, and I'm excited to share this with people. I'm honored that you're offering that to Monster Kid Radio to do as a premiere. I'm really hopeful that we bring in a lot of people because I want people to know more about what you two do.
Yes, we'd love that as well for the same reason.
Yeah. We can't have a real premiere, so might as well do a virtual one.
Yeah,
there you go.
We definitely want a lot of people to hear about us and find out about us as well.
What's coming up next? Is it too early to say?
Well, we have quite a few scripts together. Now it's interesting because we started from, where we did with Mabuse's, and now we worked our way up to Loon Lake, and it's tough to kind of go back budget-wise because now we want to keep progressing. So now we have all these scripts, and
there's a certain quality that you want to stick to, and that requires money. So it's a matter of finding financing also in the middle of a pandemic that's extended, at least here in California.
Yep. So for now, I mean, we have a comedy that we wrote that we'd really like to do. Of course, it's bare knuckle boxing thing. We have another low budget, like psychological horror film that we wrote that we could shoot in the desert for pretty cheap. We
have the Dunwich Horror, which you and I talked about, Derek.
Oh, you guys talked about that? Oh man, that script that's a really good script. I wish we could shoot that. If we had something, I didn't even know where we would pretty much shoot it.
Yeah.
If we could scrounge a little cash together for that, that would be so much fun.
Yes.
And I think we could do a great job.
That would be a dream.
But it's now we're just kind of flying off the seat of our pants. And that's kind of why we did Mabuse as well, to just kind of get something else out there in the middle of all of this. So the last one we did wasn't, a year or so ago or two. Yeah. So until we scrounge some more money together or get some more cash or find some money somewhere to
find a very happy investor.
Yes.
I love that you sound so excited about all these horror ideas, Nate. This is great. And so you brought him in, man. You converted him. You brought him in.
He got me in there. I mean, I've always liked, and that's kind of where Loon Lake, I guess, too, but I know Ansel does too, is I've always liked the psychological thrillers. I always like the mind games that are played. So like with Mabuse, when I read that script, I was really drawn to that because I like that type of film, and it's kind of the mental side of all of that stuff. So I'm definitely in there. And I always say one of the biggest films that I remember watching is a horror film. It was Children of the Corn, because my dad let me watch a little bit of it, and the corn was surrounding my house like it does in the movie Loon Lake.
Nice.
But
when we were writing Dunwich Horror, as we started this conversation where I said Nate grounds me, Nate started to write or dictate the speech that old Wizard Whately would be saying as he's summoning the elder gods into Lavinia. And Nate's just spouting out all this Lovecraftian stuff, and I was just sitting there like grinning at him like, damn, he's been hanging out with me for a really long time. I've done it to him. Yeah, it's coming.
Getting me in there.
It was really cool. And it was a good speech too. It was in the script.
So when does Ansel make an action movie then? When do you bring him over to your side?
Whenever we possibly can. I mean, we have
to check out there is a kind of action.
Yeah, a little bit, but
with no money.
With no money. Yeah, but whatever we can, like bare knuckle boxing movie. It's kind of a smaller story.
Yeah.
And then Ansel, when we get together, we always make it bigger and more grandiose. So
and now it's like a Canon Films movie.
Oh,
it's great.
It'd be amazing.
Really great.
We have like Japanese Yakuza in there and like a bunch of really fun, interesting stuff that I probably would have never come up with, So I take one idea and we smash in two ideas, and then we create this amazing, hopefully action movie that we can hopefully shoot.
Yeah, and also we did Crypto and A Gambling Man, which was also Nate's ideas, and those were they're straight dramas. But then, like, I brought this weird, surreal, like, to the first one.
Yeah.
I was having him walk backwards and do all this weird stuff, and he's like, "What am I doing?" I'm like, "Just shut up, and it'll be great. It'll be great."
Yeah.
And it's like way early on when we first started making movies together, and then we did Crypto.
Then we did this other movie, Crypto, which is another short, which I never thought we were going to make it's kind of a Gambling Man 2.
Yeah.
That I never thought we would even make a Gambling Man sequel to it, but it was a perfect spot to mash these stories together that I had, and then add Ansel in, and we kind of make it a little bigger and it's better than it could be.
Very intense drama that I think we're both very proud of.
Yeah. And that's on YouTube.
Yeah. So he does bring me over to his side, actually. Quite hey, the love story was my idea, actually. Will and Liz was my idea, and then he's talking to me about a witch. I'm like, oh God, we got to go do a horror movie again.
Yeah, so Ansel bringing me into a love story, and I bring him into a witch story. It's the complete opposite of what we both would normally do.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect place to end here, just to kind of celebrate that you two are continuing to push each other and make these stories, whether they're horror stories, love stories, whatever they happen to be. I can't wait to see what you two come up with next. And I really am excited for the new Mabuse film and anything else that comes out from you two. I'm just really looking forward to it. So please keep me posted about anything that's coming. Even if it's not a horror story, I want to hear about it.
All right. Definitely.
Thank you. When tombstones topple and coffins creak open, and the deadly, delectable lady in lavender searches for fresh victims, that is the time to see Phantasm, a fiendish undertaking. Oh yes, and it does have a burial plot. Phantasm, if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Phantasm from Avco Embassy Pictures, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Look at those trees. How lovely they look reflected in the sunlight.
Barnabas, I love to be with you. You have a way of looking at things, as if they were completely new to you. You'd never seen them before.
Some people live in boxes all their lives.
You know, I feel I'm beginning a whole new life. And you're responsible for that life. I can't tell you how exciting it is to be with you.
Barnabas Collins, vampire, takes a bride in a bizarre act of unnatural love. House of Dark Shadows from MGM. Come, see how the vampires do it.
Rated GP, all ages, parental guidance.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Monster Kid Radio. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had a good time. And I hope the conversation with Ansel and Nathan has motivated you to join us this Saturday at the Monster Kid Movie Club, because, I mean, it's just going to be a good time. And I can tell you there's going to be a secret screening, something that I'm not even allowed to name publicly will be shown. You don't want to miss it. Trust me. I've already seen it, so it's not really a secret to me, but just for that alone, come on over. You can find out more about what they're up to over at hollinsworthproductions.com, or come by this weekend because they're going to be in the chat during the Mabuse films, offering live commentary and probably answering a question or two. So hopefully we'll see you there. And if you're not there, maybe next Tuesday you'll come in for the Astronomy Club, or just come back here next week for the next episode of Monster Kid Radio, where I will finally be sitting down and editing the conversation that I've had in the hopper for a while now with Tracey Morris from Disney, Indiana. We're going to be talking about the movie The Invisible Woman.
You're materializing. Go get your clothes on. Why, Professor, I'm ashamed of you.
Get me a nurse, get me a doctor, get me something.
George, we better get the professor.
What for? To cheer up a lot of bedclothes? Come clean about how this machine works. Make me invisible.
I did not invent that machine to make killers like you invisible.
Oh, this is gonna be good. Whoopee!
Those are the noisiest grasshoppers I ever heard. Christopher Columbus, we're being shot at.
And you can count on that being run next week unless something in the Monster Kid community explodes or something brand new happens and I have to push everything back. I promise. Invisible Woman, 99.9% sure is happening next week. I'll make sure any changes are announced over on our website, over at monsterkidradio.net, where you can find our contact information, as well as links to everything that we've talked about here on the show, like the Hollinsworth Productions website, or the Amazon links to pick up some of Ansel's movies. Anything that we talk about here on the show, you're going to find it right over there. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. So please consider liking us on Twitter and joining the retweeting at the Facebook. Do whatever it is social media wants you to do. Just, you can find me online. I am working slowly to have the Monster Kid Radio social media presence be just Monster Kid Radio stuff. I know over the years I've kind of blended my own personal thing with the Monster Kid Radio thing, and just trying to keep things separate. I'm working to separate things out, and that even extends to my Twitter accounts. So I've got the Monster Kid Radio Twitter and then my own personal Twitter. So if you do see some changes, that's why. It's not that I stopped following you or whatever. It's just that I'm slowly separating the Monster Kid Radio thing and my own personal stuff that's non-Monster Kid related. That's all. And speaking of personal stuff, and I just want to throw this out there. I mean, it's kind of a big deal, but I've had people ask me how Brenda and I are doing and that sort of thing. And I just want to share with you that she's fine. She's healthy. I don't have her locked up in a closet somewhere. I don't know where I'm going with that, but here's what's happening. We are separating. There are a handful of reasons as to why. She was just giggling at my comment about her being tied up in a closet somewhere. So, I mean, we still live together in the same place, but that will be changing down the line. It's just a thing that's happened, and I wanted to let you guys and gals know what's going on, and kind of explain why Brenda will probably not be on the podcast again in the future. I'm kicking her off the podcast. I'm taking the podcast with me. I don't know if anybody even heard you say that. She's welcome on the podcast anytime. But, yeah, people can't hear you say that. But she's saying thank you. You know, it occurred to me that I could be saying what you're saying even though you could be locked up in a closet somewhere. It'd be in a basement, actually. But the thing is, we're separating, and I haven't really said much about it on Facebook or Twitter, and I'm not going to make a huge deal out of it publicly, but I just wanted everybody to know. Anyway, that brings us to the very, very end of the show. Kind of a heavy note to end on, so let's play some more awesome music and let everybody know that Monster Kid Radio is a registered service mark of Monster Kid Radio, LLC. All original content of Monster Kid Radio by Monster Kid Radio, LLC is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported License. The song Alpaca Boogie is copyright The Space Agency 2020. You can find them at thespaceagency.bandcamp.com. Once again, link in the show notes, and let them know that I sent you their way. My name's Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week. Ciao.